So today we're speaking with Kevin Wedge, the general manager of Pro Powder in South Haven, Michigan, the shop that's really undergone some significant automation programs and upgrades in the past few years. Kevin, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
Great. First of all, South Haven, where is that in Michigan?
South Haven is southwest Michigan. In fact, our shop is located walking distance, probably about 8 minutes from the lake shore here.
Gotcha.
So we're right on Lake Michigan. And actually, during the summertime, people in the industry, environmental controls are a big thing. And it's typically a little bit cooler over here. So our employees are thankful for our location here right along the lake shore.
Beautiful area, I'm sure. Well, great. Well, tell us a little bit about Pro Powder in general, just all that you offer your customers as far as finishing and coating processes.
Yeah. So the owner, Carl Kelch, he's been in the finishing game, well before he started Pro Powder. Pro Powder's been here for 20 years now. We are a job shop, so we're not manufacturing any parts ourselves. Everything comes in from outside accounts. And we service basically all along the lake shore, all the way from, South Bend, Benton Harbor, all the way up to Grand Rapids and even into Comstock Park area. We even have some accounts on the other side of the state over in the Detroit area. So we service a good portion of Southwest Michigan. A lot of those industries include everything from landscaping, retail, automotive. A lot of appliance is big in this area.
Right. Yeah. And, how long have you been with Pro Powder?
Yeah. I've been with Pro Powder going on 6 years now. So when I came here, I actually have a pharmaceutical background, which is a completely different environment. There's a procedure. You're not allowed to go take a bathroom break until you read the SOP on how to properly take a bathroom break. So going from an environment that was, every process had, tight control to something that was a little more loose and relaxed was a bit of a culture change. But over my time here, I've tried to bring in some of that control and process-driven just processes in general to powder coating and to Pro Powder, and I think that it's done us some favors here.
Right, yeah. So previously, about 3 or 4 years ago, you automated your first line, right? And that was kind of your first step, right? Let's get some automation in here. Tell us about that. Tell us about that first approach.
So, obviously, it starts with a decision. We're looking at different options that were tailored to our current existing production line, which was manual spray at that time. So we had 2 booth operators in there. So the first thing was making a decision on which product do we actually want to go with. Once we were past that, there was quite a bit of planning in place as far as delivery and how that goes, and obviously the installs always a beast. I don't know that smooth installs is a thing. Everybody hopes for it. Everybody plans for it.
The dream.
But in reality, there's always some wrenches in there. But after the install, we had a couple other challenges with some of the reclaim process and stuff like that. Again, all being new to us. It was a culture change for management and production staff. Back when we had manual sprayers, hey, we've got a couple odds and ends here. I'll just hang them up on, whatever rack or whatever hook. It'll be fine. The painters know what to get. When you're running something that's automated, that consistency starts at loading that line. We really had to drill it into our operators here. We have to be consistent starting here. We can't, have those one-offs like we used to, because the booth will not coat the way we want it to. So, and after we got past that, it's been pretty smooth sailing. Like I said, we had some challenges at first. Culture change was a big one. And now that the dust has settled, so to speak, we're relatively happy with it. it's increased our throughput, and also helped us on labor as well.
Right. So you talked about making the decision. What was it that was leading you towards recommending that this is what we have to do? What were signs you were seeing, or what were practices you were seeing that thought we need to kind of go to this route?
When the ultimate the decision started with essentially the products that we were running on that line, which were smaller parts and very, very high volume, up to 60,000 parts a shift. So we were looking, getting away from a manual spray to something automated because it was going to be consistent throughout an entire shift, or that's what we were going to strive to do. Looking at the options from there, to be honest with you, a lot of the booth manufacturers and powder equipment, at the end of the day, most of them are going to be comparable. No major significant changes other than maybe some software. So price and delivery came into that decision as well.
Right. You had mentioned earlier that you invested some time and resources into upgrading your IT and your infrastructure. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, that seems to be the base of what you have to start doing, right? To really get automation going, is get your IT and infrastructure in place.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a smaller shop. We've got anywhere from 20 to 25 employees, and I'm going to say six or so computers here that we're running nonstop, and also some folks remote in from home. So our IT has been self-managed for some time now, well before my time here. And it just wasn't in the greatest condition. There was a lot of gaps. We were lacking in certain areas. We were carrying some additional risk that ultimately we shouldn't be carrying. So we had that discussion about managed IT services, and we now utilize a company that is another software company here along the lakeshore, IT company along the lakeshore. And they monitor all of our equipment remotely, and have made some significant changes here on site as far as hardware. So overall, our IT system is much more stable compared to what it used to be, as well as scalable. And that was kind of the main driver there. You know what? We can deal with the headaches from day to day. It's not going to be perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect. But scalability what was a big driver there in that decision.
Right. You mentioned significant culture change. You went to a software, a Steelhead Technologies, to really put that in place to start. Well, tell us what it does for you. The Steelhead Technology softwares that you've got that helps run your shop. What does it do for you, and the improvements that you've seen?
Yeah. So first, what Steelhead is essentially it's a start to finish ERP software. It's all web based, so we don't have any software running on our server here or anything like that. It's all cloud based, web based, accessed in a browser, and essentially it is our ERP or MRP software. So from the moment we get a PO, there is a received order and work order generated in this software. That is ultimately pushed down to our operators. So in the past, we were using a dated ERP software with paperwork tickets, paper job travelers, paper packing lists, functional, but the base that this software was built on is just dated software. And we were lacking a lot of the latest and greatest features that some of the other software developers offer. So this is something we've been looking at for a while, and ultimately we decided to go with Steelhead, and it's web-based, cloud-based ERP software that we process all of our parts through. From the moment we get a PO to the time we invoice, and every step in our process is all pushed through Steelhead. So some of the changes that, or some of the highlights that it has brought us, um, is accurate data tracking and logging. So we used to do a lot of manual breakdowns. Hey, we ran this job. It took us 7 hours with 8 operators, and we used X amount of powder. Okay, here's what it cost us to process this job. Do manual job breakdowns like that. Now a lot of that is done automatically with Steelhead. So our operators now, instead of having paperwork tickets, they'll use a web-based tablet. They will access their work board for their work center and process their orders through there. As they're doing it, there is at point of use instructions with each step along the process. So whatever node we're at in our process tree for processing part XYZ, it will show us the instructions we need for part XYZ at loading, at painting, at inspect and pack, and anywhere else in our process that we would need to highlight specific instructions.
You mentioned that you all were using a lot of paper documents before, which is a risk, right? And I think one of the things you mentioned was that you this was kind of a gradual changes. You all gained more confidence. You started doing a lot more conversions, and people started becoming more comfortable with the software. Correct? I mean, that seems to be a big holding back where people aren't real comfortable doing it. But it sounds like that's something you all really were able to integrate very easily and smoothly with.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to him. It's scary. It's scary. It's daunting. Some of it is a bit of a leap of faith. And as we went through and we've started processing these orders through there, ultimately, employee feedback from this change, they prefer it over a paperwork ticket, just because they have more visibility. They can see, okay, hey, here's our job we're on now. Here's our next one. If they're curious about something, they can click into it and get some extra information beforehand. So, ultimately, it's scary making that transition. Once it's done, it's hard to look back. I will say that.
The Steelhead people about this, and I think you mentioned it too, is it's not like they came in and told you how to do your job, right? It's like it's like not drastically changing how you do it. It's really improving the way you do it currently, correct? I mean, just improve it that way.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So, Steelhead does not have their own,
Did I lose you there?
Hey, if you want to use this, it's got to be. No, it's got the flexibility to basically adapt to any process. And their scope is for finishing, but I would imagine that the software itself is probably powerful enough to support multiple manufacturing jobs. But give me just a second here, Tim. I just lost it.
Sure.
I'm gonna give you some editing work here. What was the original question again?
That's no problem.
Yeah.
I was going to say is that, a little back up. Yeah, I was going to say, from what I understand is that, Steelhead, they didn't really come in and tell you how to change or alter the way you did your business, right? They sort of worked around the way you all operate and really sort of customized it so that it really augmented what you were doing already. It really wasn't changing your operational processes.
Yes, correct. Again, it's not changing our process. It is, I guess, amplifying our process or adding some extra layer and detail to our process. So, in short, our process has not changed since I've been here, but we have added a couple layers to it. And Steelhead, with that. Some of our external processes are now rolled in, meaning some of the data collection, whether it's quality metrics, titration logs, can all be captured with the software now as well. So the process is the same. The way we go about capturing data is a little bit different. but the software is flexible enough that I don't know what the upper limit would be on this. It's probably more than what we could ever utilize here, but it has that capability, and it's definitely streamlined a lot for us.
Right. Well, I've often heard there's data, then there's actionable data. And
Mhm.
so is that something that you look at and see where you can find improvements, or even just looking back and seeing how you did, like you said, how much powder you used, how much all the process, is that something that's really being helpful to you, is collecting that and looking at the data?
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, any rework costs, quality metrics, all that stuff is captured in real time, and can be shared immediately with the production crew or customers or whoever needs to see it. Um, and that's something that obviously the work centers, our production lines here will strive to. Okay, hey, you know what, we need to do better here. So yeah, it's real data that you can immediately act on.
Gotcha. So tell me about your employees. How did they react to this when you were integrating it? Was it something where, like you said, even you mentioned even you were scared to death of it first? How are we going to do this? But what was that reaction? How did you get them to all kind of bite in and join into this program?
Um, ultimately, was hey, I'm trying to make your job easier. I'm trying to reduce the amount of unknowns and stress that you might come across in a normal day-to-day operation. So, hey, we're going to roll in all of your quality checks, all of your paint usage, um, all of your work instructions into single items that you need to process in order to complete this order. So you don't have the option to forget. You don't have the option to forget capturing a quality metric or pulling the right work instruction. So that was kind of the big push as far as engaging the crew is, hey, we're trying to simplify this for you, eliminate unknowns, and reduce whatever stress you guys might be feeling. And ultimately that, and hey, we're going to give you guys a tablet out here. They were pretty excited about that. So they were happy to play with technology. But those were the two big, selling points as far as engaging the crew.
Right. You mentioned also sort of scaling and then also making things sort of future proof a little bit. Has
Yeah,
that sort of worked well with you all? That it really has sort of in the overall strategy that you have?
absolutely. So, I mean, ultimately, our goal here is to bring on at least one more shift, and we're kind of on that cusp right now, where we're going back and forth depending on season, but ultimately that's the goal. And with this software, scalability would definitely, I guess it would come most into play as far as training or engaging new employees. So if we were to bring on another shift, say tomorrow or next week, obviously we would have a lot of training to do. With some of the built-in work instructions that we can offer through Steelhead, you can ramp up some of these new employees much quicker. The information's right there in front of them. They have to look at it as they're processing these orders. I guess that'd probably be the biggest benefit as far as scalability is new employee engagement and training, having that information there and in front of them when they need it, as opposed to relying on additional admin training and stuff like that.